Okay.
Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show with me, Andrew Eborn, and my good chum down in South Africa, Errol Musk. Welcome back, Errol.
Thank you. Yes. Thank
We were
you.
talking about controversies in family, and people always sort of, whether it's about politics or it's about religion and so on and so forth. And you previously told me about Trump and how he was a dividing character, and you fell out with your sons for a little while. What was the
Yes.
catalyst for getting back together again?
Well, I took it that up to about 2021, I realized I was on a sort of no, no hope situation with my sons regarding the political situation in America. Um, it seemed to me that I had to totally avoid saying anything in the press and I have a lot of newspapers often phoning me over the last few years and asking me what I think of this, what I think of that. And, I realized up to about the year 21 or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I have to keep quiet about this. So I mustn't upset them anymore. And I came to the conclusion that they died in the wool Democrats, sort of thing, so-called Democrats. And which is a type of mental approach that the Democrats have, which I don't particularly understand. Anyway, um, then in the end of 2021, Biden, um, um, I must just add that I thought the election in 2020 was rigged. In fact, I'm quite sure it was rigged. I have no doubt about it. But at any rate, this Biden bloke was somehow pushed into a very unsuitable for being a president. It was pushed, and he was pushed into this position. And in the end of 2021, he invited all the electric car manufacturers, as he put it, to come to the White House. It was roughly in December 2021, and to meet with him over a period of time, a few days, and discuss the transition in America of from gasoline or petrol powered cars to electric powered cars by the year 2035. And which I think is unrealistic in any case. But nevertheless, these people all came, but he didn't invite Tesla. And in 2021, Tesla had already sold over 1 million cars, electric cars, and in that year. And at the meeting with Biden, Biden pronounced GM as being the leading electric car manufacturer in the United States. And the woman who was at that point CEO of GM as being the leading proponent for electric cars in the United States. Elon couldn't understand this. Nobody could understand this. And at that time, GM had built 26 electric cars and actually only sold one. So it was not ridiculous. It was beyond ridiculous. It was farcical. It was a farce. And Elon couldn't understand this. And he made it known. What's going on? Why? Why? I've never done anything to harm anyone. Why have you done this? And then he started making statements in January 2022, which were political of nature, regarding the Biden government on other issues as well, besides the electric car. I saw this and I immediately contacted him. I said, listen, do you realize you're making political statements? Because up to then, Elon had made no political statement in his entire life,
Right.
other than I support Obama. I support, this and that. And again, supporting Obama was also somewhat patronizing. It was a case of, let's give the other guys a chance too, that type of thing, and we open to that. But anyway, um, he started making these political statements. And I said, look, this is political. What you're saying is harshly political. And I said, the main concern I had was his safety. And even friends of mine, elderly friends of mine here, who'd also seen this, important guys, they said to me, does Elon know that he needs to have good protection? Yeah, he's not safe. And I said, yes, I told him. And then I actually said to him at the time in January or so, February or so, 2022, I said to him, it's not only who your guards are, but who appointed your gods? And who appointed the people who appointed the people who appointed your gods? And he had been somewhat lax in this in the time before that. And he'd found himself being, on one occasion he was sued by a woman who he took on a trip in his jet. And she said he attempted to assault her on the flight, which is very unlikely because Elon's not like that. But he settled it with a large amount of money, because what can you do? And I told him he's got to make sure that some of his guards are always within listening range, and he's got to make sure that whoever his guards are, who appointed them as well, And he did that. He did all that, and that was when all of a sudden he said he started looking at what was going on, and being the kind of person he is, it didn't take him long. So by about March, he had come to the conclusion, looking at things that were being said on Twitter as well, and somehow making fun of Tesla, I suppose, or something. I don't know. Some of these people were saying these things. He saw the lies that were being put out, and he said, I'm going to buy this Twitter and put an end to this. And that's why I bought Twitter.
Right.
And it all started with Biden not inviting him to the White House. So if Biden had invited him to the White House and introduced him, obviously, as the leading electric car manufacturer in the United States, we would not have Elon today, more than likely, where he is.
Right.
It was Biden who provided the catalyst. And since then, Elon has gone, exponentially into the world of sorting out people like Biden and not going on the wrong track that we have been on. And as you've seen yourself, he's made it clear that X is a platform for all opinions, as long as they are not harmful or illegal. Yeah. And he's getting a lot of flack for that from the European Union, who want X to be banned in the European area because they don't want other people's opinion voiced, which tells you everything about them to start with.
Well, it's crazy.
Yes.
Well, that happened in Brazil. We looked at that previously, and where they sort of turn around and
recently.
Some of the opposition. But why didn't Biden invite Elon to that important meeting?
Well, I imagine, if I know the types that Biden and his people are made of, and I've had dealings with them in the past, they can't stand unbridled success of other people. Right. They can't bear it. They simply can't bear it. They simply can't bear it. They do not have it inward. They don't have the decency in themselves to be happy with other people's success. And their answer to other people being successful is to bring them down.
Right.
And I think we've all been there at school and later possibly at university and later on in life, and in our business environments, where if you do well, you're not particularly lauded for it. You often find yourself all alone.
Yes.
And so that's what I think. It was a definite, deliberate dig to hurt Elon, right, that he was not invited to the electric car.
The good news is, Errol, I mean, it helped with your relationship because both Kimbal and Elon could turn around and say, well, actually, maybe our dad has got something right about Trump.
Yes. No, you, as a parent, as a dad, and you too, now, I mean, everybody, you even from when your kids are small, you might say to them, something to them and say, oh, no, Dad, it's not like that, And you don't want to chastise them or something, So you say, oh, you'll find out, or you might say that, but that's a bit over the top. You might say, oh, all right, but in your heart of hearts that in due course they'll find out, and then they'll come to you for help. You see, and it will eventually tell you, Dad, that thing you were telling me about. Dad, you were right, and then you don't sort of take a great joy in their admission. You say, oh, yes, I remember that. Oh, yes. You don't sort of make them feel small. You praise them for having come to their, sort of senses.
The road to Damascus moment. I always talk about JD Vance, which I always say sounds like a cheap sportswear shop, but JD Vance had that road to Damascus because
it's not a clothing store.
Exactly.
JP
In
Vance.
2016, he called Trump the American Hitler, didn't he? He wasn't very kind about him, but he had his
I
road to
read that,
Damascus
yes.
moment. He said, "Well, the reason I changed my mind is because I saw what a great president he was."
Yes, well,
That
it's almost similar to Elon. You obviously it soon became apparent with Trump that American fuel was 190. What am I saying? 179 a gallon.
yeah,
When I used to go there with Trump, and when I was there recently, up in the Virginia and so on, it was like $6 or $7 a gallon. And this is quite a big difference. And there were so many things that Trump seemed to get right, but obviously he would, because that's what he does. That's his business. And these chaps in government haven't got a clue, because they've never run anything. I mean, you only have to look at someone who takes a chance at starting their own business to tell them, the first 6 months you're going to wish never happened, because it's terrible, the first 6 months of most businesses, because it doesn't come right very quickly. And if it does come right in 6 months, you're very lucky, very, very lucky.
Yeah. It is interesting. And, going back to the politics side of it, it's what a divide that is for family. And you get some horrible quotes in the press about that evil man and so on and so forth. And did either Kimbal or Elon ever apologize to you about that party?
No, I wouldn't want that. 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 I wouldn't allow that. I wouldn't even listen to an apology. They've done enough simply by saying the things they've said, and having said that, my dad recently, Elon told a crowd, my dad taught me all I know about engineering, which was a very nice thing to say. Yeah. And of course, I quickly corrected him and said, no, I'm sure you've taught yourself more than I've ever taught you. And to the crowd. But no, I don't need that kind of thing. I don't need to tell a friend something and then he has to come and apologize to me for having queried me. No. I think it's more a case of the man who invites the son back, who went and wasted his 100 talents in the city, and the son who stayed behind and looked after the farm is upset when the father in the Bible says to the son who came back, "Oh, I'm so glad you're back," and hugs him. And the other son says, "Well, why are you doing that? Aren't you supposed to tell him off?" And the father said, "No, I'm just so glad he's back. That's all. I just love him, and that's all I want." You know what I mean? You don't want to
totally. I mean, it was obviously a slightly humiliating party. I think that's when they had all these showbiz people around, all the film actors and actresses and producers and things like that. And you were extolling the virtues of Trump, you were telling me, and Kimbal and Elon said how embarrassed they were as a result of it.
Yes, the Hollywood crowd laughed their heads off at me for saying, yes, I support Trump. And this embarrassed Elon and them, because we spoke, anyway, the thing is, Elon and people coming from South Africa, white people, let's say, of white South Africans who have immigrated or gone over to the United States to study, have often found themselves included. All my daughters, my sons and daughters had the same experience. The boys didn't worry about it so much, but my daughters suffered a lot. Were in a position where they were accosted by American girls and told, so you come from the apartheid, you supported apartheid and all that sort of stuff. My daughters would say, no, we didn't, but it was difficult for them, and would reduce my daughters to tears.
Right.
In fact, my daughter was reduced to tears. My one daughter was reduced to tears simply telling me how she's being treated in America. And then I said to her, well, just ask her the next time they start, just say, when they've finished, when they're done, just say to them, thanks, I'll do my best. But in the meantime, I'd like to see an Indian village, and a red Indian village. I'd love to see a red Indian village. Where do I go to see that? And they'll just shut up. They'll never, ever complain to you again about South Africa, because they killed all the Indians, and they know that. There were 26 million Indian people or indigenous people in the United States before 1900. By 1900, there were 1 million left. They killed 25 million people. And they actually had a policy of destroying these people. So the Americans will keep quiet after that, because they know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it is terrible. And I say people get so many misunderstandings about people from different countries, and as you say, you were one of the people who was speaking up against it. I mean, so how
Yes,
would you?
I was often threatened in South Africa for my anti-apartheid stance. Not that I knew that I couldn't. It's very difficult to explain to people. But when we were deep in the years of apartheid, let's say in the 70s and early 80s, it was not an easy thing to speak out against it. I mean, you can sort of imagine, publicly. I mean, you can imagine someone in Hitler's Germany would have had a great deal of more trouble, I imagine, speaking out against Hitler, and saying, I don't agree with this, especially on the front page of a newspaper. I mean, we've learned from history, I think, that people who did that in Germany were soon collected by the Gestapo, never seen again, or something to that effect. And so here in South Africa, it was not quite as bad as that, but it was bad. You couldn't easily get away with, you kept to yourself. You weren't going around mouthing things. And when we had political elections, and prior to the elections, there would be meetings in halls, what do you call it? Political meetings in school halls and such like, where people came to listen to a speaker or something. And if I often went to such meetings, and they would, on many occasions, they were reduced to fist fighting, and a lot of blood was spilt. And on one occasion, the leading newspaper's photographer, O'Brien Collins, was put into intensive care for 6 weeks after such a meeting. It was quite normal to see people being bashed over the head with chairs and all that in such meetings. And so, you couldn't just sort of get away with saying things that were not in line with what everybody else was feeling. At the time, it was reasonably fair to say that most white people liked having apartheid because they couldn't imagine a black government. They just couldn't imagine it. And a lot of their fears have come to pass. I mean, today we have a black government. They try their best. I think South Africa is much better off, of course, in many ways. And I wouldn't want to go back in any way. But we don't have any functioning government departments. There's not a single government department that functions in South Africa anymore. We just have I don't know how we keep going. Quite honestly, nobody knows. Nobody quite knows how we go on. We just don't know. And we've had a recent election in which I've always said that unless the ANC introduces sharing of positions and with the other races in the country and gives white people a chance to share in government, things will never come right. And recently, I've made that known. And recently, we had an election in May this year when the ANC had tremendous losses. And for the first time, the opposition, which is made up of different races, but also a lot of people from the white community, and about 3 of them have been placed in cabinet positions. And since then, since May, we've seen our currency increase in value by 15%.
Okay.
So it's quite amazing to see the changes that have taken place in such a short time.
Yeah.
And it's not that anyone's bad or anyone's good. It's that you have to do things that are based on appointing people who have merit to do jobs and who are supposed to be there and so forth.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, and I long for the day when everything's just a meritocracy, when we're blind to color, creed, any sexual persuasion, any of that sort of stuff. So you don't have this sort of woke agenda as we have in so many places, where you have to tick a box to say I've got such and such a person, and because it's basically, as you rightly point out, everybody suffers as a result. If it should be about meritocracy, shouldn't it?
Yes, talking about history and on another sort of tack, another subject, the British government, the British used to appoint generals to lead their troops when Britain was this mighty empire. They would often appoint generals on the basis of their, the sort of position in society in England, of the ruling classes, and these blokes were useless, and as a result, some of the worst military defeats that the British ever suffered was when such people were placed in command of British armies, where the British army was routed. And this is, you'd think that would sort of make people realize, you can't do that. You can't do that. You have to have people with ability in these positions. You can't just take someone because they went to the right school and they're the right family and sort of plonk them in the position that they're now in charge of the army as well. You're going to see your backside,
Yeah. No, and as you say, everybody suffers as a result if we don't have the best people in the job. But I always say that the reason history repeats itself is we don't learn the lessons from history.
Well, yes, of course. People. I mean, they say you must learn the lessons from history, and of course we do our best to do that. But egos get in the way, I suppose. I don't know. And at the end of the day, of course, you also don't want to, patter too much. Or what's the right word? Fidget too much with society, with people. They must be left to be what they are, this colorful group of white apes or black apes and white apes or whatever they are, and let them get on with it. But so you don't want to have too many controls, because then we start going back to old Keir Starmer, and all his controls. We don't want that. We want people must be free as possible, as free as it's possible to be, is what you want with people. And if you do that, then wonders happen. Then wonders occur.
Yeah.
I can say quite firmly that had Elon, who is quite extraordinary, even in my book, very extraordinary individual, things he's done are just absolutely extraordinary. I mean, I was talking to people yesterday, and they were talking about Elon and everything, and it happened that we had to, in fact, move to another subject, which was to do with Facebook, and it had to do with PayPal. And the one chap said to me, on top of everything, he said, "Didn't Elon start PayPal?" I said, "Yes, he started." That's sort of everybody's sort of gobsmacked. Just can't believe this.
Yeah.
But Elon totally amazes me. But at the same time, you have to give people as much opportunity as you can. And had he been in South Africa and had grown up here and taken a job here and so forth, I've often said to people, I think he would have committed suicide. I say that as a sort of way of trying to emphasize what I'm saying more than anything else, because he would have wound up working as a person in maybe an actuary or something in a bank or something, and he would have been very frustrated. I don't think he would have liked it all, because he could never have achieved what he has achieved in America, or if he'd been here, or if he'd been in England, or if he'd been in France or any of those places, because it's America that allows people the freedom to do what they can and doesn't stand in the way of people. I mean, if Orwell and Wilbur Wright had been in Europe, they would have been stopped immediately by the police or something, But in America, they were given, every opportunity to invent the aeroplane and so forth,
Yeah.
So yeah,
I always say two wrongs don't make a right, but two rights make a great aeroplane.
yes, true. That's nice. No, that's true.
Very good.
Yeah.
You're clearly very proud of all of your children. But how would you describe your current relationship with Elon?
Good, very good, very good. No, he listens to what I say. He's very, very busy, and much like I was at his age and younger than him, really. Well, from when I started out, I never actually would have contacted my father and said, he was from a different world, and I wouldn't have said to him, I'm busy with. I happen to be with three other men. We bought the site that is the commercial hub of Pretoria today, called Menland. In fact, I gave the place the name, and it was a very big step, and to make this change, which ultimately changed the whole city. And so that was the kind of thing. I could not have phoned my dad and said, "Dad, I've just taken out this was in 1972. I've just taken out £1 million loan on a development here." £1 million in those days would buy you several aircraft and several Rolls Royces. Rolls Royce was £6,000 at the time. So I'd just borrowed £1 million to buy this site, and my dad wouldn't have been able to respond to that. He would have told me, I think you're doing the wrong thing. I'm sure he would have said to me, have you still got a job there, or something, or, don't do anything that will get you fired or something. I don't know what he would have said, but he wouldn't have been able to comprehend what I'm saying. And so I would never have gone to him with something like that, or my mother for that matter, because I happened to spring into a world that was completely foreign to them. And Elon, of course, is in a world where if he phones the head of Morgan Stanley this morning, right now, Morgan Stanley runs to the phone, the bloke, the head of Morgan Stanley, to pick up the phone when they tell him Elon Musk is on the phone. You know what I mean? So who are we talking about here? So that's Elon. So I can't imagine that I have much in common with his day-to-day life, other than to appreciate it and to know that, hope that he has strength of mind and strength of body all the time to deal with all the things that he's faced with daily. Because he's faced with things daily, much like we were talking about a restaurant owner who's daily faced with there's no this, there's no that, there's no electricity, so-and-so didn't come to work, there's no water, the electricity's off. This is a typical restaurant, I'm just saying, that's a typical day in Elon's life. I'm just extrapolating his life into the simple example of, let's say, a small business. And he's dealing with that every day. And you can imagine that just like you, and every day he wakes up to not everything being honky-dory, but everything but honky-dory, if you know what I mean. And by the end of the day, they go, okay, let's wait for tomorrow and see what comes.
And the trouble is, with so many companies and so many things, there's always going to be fires to put out, isn't there?
Yes, there's permanently, in the business world as I was in, you write off the things that are wonderful and happen nicely because you just write them off. You say great, and that's out of the way because you need all your focus to be on the things that are not great. You can't let's all go to the pub and have a drink over the fact that such a nice thing happened, or we've got this project off our hands or something like that. No, that was, you couldn't do that. You had to focus entirely on what's next,
Yeah.
And so that's life.
I always say you should walk a mile in somebody else's moccasins, then you understand. I mean, and talking of which, just a final thought for today on the media, because you've been very candid and open about family, and every family has issues and so on and so forth. How do you feel about the media's portrayal of you and your family?
Well, a lot of the media portrayal has been very, very nice, very good, very kind, very supportive, very in adoration of Elon and Kimbal for that matter, and some things also on Tosca. I've seen shows on Tosca on television where people have, had her tell them how she's achieved what she's achieved. There's also been, sort of negative stuff, and of course, negative stuff about me I couldn't care less about. I mean, I couldn't care less. Obviously, I couldn't care less. Why would I even bother? I have had people in life, when they've been told I'm who I am, they've said rude things to me, one or two, I don't even know them, no clue who they are. But I don't mind. I couldn't care less. I mean, I've been to school. I went to high school, and then after that I went to the army, and nothing can prepare you more for life than being at a co-ed high school and being in the army, where you're permanently reminded what a piece of this you are, a piece of that you are. And but so no, I don't care. But I do see a lot of negative comment about Elon, especially lately, because of his political stance and bad things which are totally false, totally have no connection with reality. The things they say about him in a lot of these media channels. One particular one called Racini wrote this hugely long article on Elon, trying to break down every single thing he's ever done from the day he started. And I mean, to go to so much effort and know that if you had half a brain, that you're not going to achieve anything with this. Yeah. Nobody's even going to be remotely changed in their opinion of Elon by reading this article. But it does obviously affect the person concerned. So it would affect Elon. And he, no doubt, when he's told that this and this has been said about him, and he's very stoic and he would accept it, but it's not nice, especially if it's false.
Yeah, and I think I always urge everybody in the media to, whenever they hear a report, just question everything, and what I love about doing this show, it gives a nice chance to actually to unpack everything in your own words and to make people realize that perception and reality are not always aligned.
Yes. No, I would say nearly everybody I've ever known in life try their very best to do their very best thing. I can't even think of any case where it hasn't been like that. Everybody I know, thank heavens, has always tried their very best to do their very best. So I have no problem with humanity as a whole. Sometimes people disagree with you, and other times they do agree with you. And sometimes when they do agree with you, you start questioning yourself, saying, God, I must be wrong. Why are they agreeing with me?
Well, you're absolutely a lovely positive point to finish on. Errol, always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you next time.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.